So the part 2 is for the legal aspects in to work in Belgium. In general, there are some general rules like age, like identity card, like residency permit and work permit that you have to have in order to be able to work in Belgium. For age, its minimum age is 18 years old, with some exceptions if it is 15 years old in 3 cases. If it is student job, if it is a vocational, if the person is studying in a vocational school, or if he is studying half-time work. Maximum age of work until now it is 65, but as we mentioned, it will be extended to 67 by 2020, 2005 and 20. Now, to work, you are no longer in need for work permit anymore. If you have one of those electronic cards, it doesn't matter what is this card, if it's F plus, E plus, or if it is A, B, C, D, or even H, you don't need any additional work permit to be able to work in Belgium. They are both together for everybody. Anyway, there are some people who are not allowed to work. First, failed asylum seeker, somebody who applied for as an asylum seeker, and he failed, he received a negative decision, then he is not allowed, or she is not allowed to work. Asylum seekers in the procedures, if they are within the procedure, the first 4 months of the procedure, they are not allowed to work. However, after the first 4 months after submitting their application, it will be allowed for them to work. Tourists with a tourist visa, Schengen visa less than 90 stay days in Belgium, they are also not allowed to work. And no legal residence. If they don't have a legal residency in Belgium, or a person doesn't have a legal residency in Belgium, so he or she is not allowed to work as well. Anyway, we'll go back to differentiate between the employee, as we mentioned in the class over Social Security, employee, and worker is emploi, or bedende in het Nederlands, or ouvrier in het French, or arbeider in het Netherlands. So we have employee, and we have workman or servant. You can call it whatever you want. Anyway, now we are talking about general differences between them. Previously there was a trial period, but the trial period is totally abolished from the system. So they had previously, as a workman, short trial period, while for employee it was a longer one. For the termination period is the same, is not abolished. The termination is also important for everybody. Termination period for a workman is shorter than it is for the employee. Anyway, laid off due to bad weather, technical issues. So if it is not possible for them to work, they will stop working. However, for employee, must work within the working hours, even if it is heavily raining, or it is very hot in the summer. So they must work. Anyway, occupational diseases. If a person is sick due to his work, we mentioned it also in the class Social Security, then it is fully granted salary. His salary is 100% granted, while for the employee it will be paid from the Social Security. For the who is paying their annual vacation, we already mentioned it also in the class over Social Security. It is paid from the business desk here, while here it is paid from the employer himself. The salary for the employee is per month, while the salary for the workman is per hour or per day. Contract in general in Belgium, it is possible to have 2 sorts of contracts, either a written contract or a verbal contract. It is still allowed in the Belgian law to have a verbal contract for your employee. So here it is either verbal or a written contract. Anyway, in the contract we have some basic information that must be included in the contract, like the name of the employee, the name of the employer, address of employee, address of the employer, starting working days, the date of signing the contract, the workplace, and so many other things related to work. Is if it is a full-time, how many hours per week, if it is a half-time or a part-time, how many hours per day, and so on and so on. And then there are also, if there are extra advantages, we have mainly like food check or the eco checks or even the hospitalization. So those two things are included. Anyway, we mentioned in the previous slide that the trial period is abolished. There is no more trial period, but there is, Belgium, there is always exceptions. Here is the only exception case for the trial period. If you have signed an interim contract, you will have 3 days of trial period. Anyway, we mentioned that a contract can be verbal, but terminating the contract must be written. There is no termination for a contract without being written, and there must be announcement, like a termination period. And termination period, we'll discuss it later, or under this video I'll put some links how you can calculate your termination period. Anyway, if your contract is terminated, if your contract is ended without terminations, normally ended by the end date, you will receive a form. It's the C4 or the C4 formula. It is from the employer to the employee, and this formula is very important to receive your financial benefits from the RVA. Anyway, here is an example, a sample for the C4. It is important for the trade union. It is important for the RVA. It is important for the allowance, to receive your allowance. Employers give it to the employee. Anyway, even if you have other job, you have the right to get it. Working hours in general, legal working hours, officially, it is 8 hours per day or 38 hours per week. If we are talking about a day, then we are talking about a workman. If talking about a week, we are talking about an employee. But in general, maximum is 8, minimum is 3. There are for sure some exceptional cases in some sectors, because under each sector, or actually under each subsectors, there are special rules and regulations. And in this class, we are not entitled to discuss all those things in details. But anyway, even if it is something else, even if it is like a collective agreement, it's like, as I mentioned here, if it is a collective labor agreement, then there could be also other exceptions. But anyway, if it is a shift time, if it is a shift day, shift work, then you have to work maximum 11 hours per days, or 50 hours per week. If it is a one day, then you have the right for a break 11 hours. If you work 6 hours together, you have a right to go on a break for 15 minutes. And for the night work is actually from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. unless if it is a collective labor agreement, which means they have other dates or other time, they specified other time, or they define the work night as another in another definition. Anyway, it is important to mention here that there is no illegal things that to say that working hours at night is more than has to be more expensive than normal working hours. It is under the definition of the employer himself, but normally, traditionally, they are paying extra for night work and extra for weekend work. Illegal work. If you are working illegally, it means that you are working without a contract. And working without a contract doesn't matter if it is a written or a verbal contract. It means that you don't contribute to the social security and you don't pay your taxes. It means, first of all, that your employer can fire you wherever he wants. There is no regulations here, no termination period, and no rights, no C4 after the termination period. You don't have the right to receive financial assistance from the RVA, and you don't have the right to receive back some taxation. You may go to the court, and you may be in the jail. Anyway, if during your illegal work you was receiving money from the CBAS or CMW or the RVA, you will be forced to pay it back again for the state. The most important negative consequences of illegal work is actually this photo, and you can understand what does it mean. I don't need to explain it, guys. Other important things for illegal work. There are a lot of things to talk about it, but the risk for the employer himself is also that he will be paying large fines or big fines for the state. Here, let's talk about it here. Fines for the state. So it's not good for everybody. It's not good for you. It's not good for him. It's very dangerous. I do advise you to avoid working illegal work. Next video, we'll talk about salaries in